Hello. For my oral presentation, I chose to analyze a podcast called A Sustainable Mind. And this episode is titled Sustainable and Ethical Fashion with Aspen Murray of Ethigirl. And so essentially it's an interview with this girl whose name is Aspen Murray, she's from Canada. And she started this blog called Ethigirl to help talk about sustainability and fast fashion. So in this, she describes how she grew up in New Brunswick, and she was surrounded by nature, so that kind of helped her gain interest in learning about it a bit more. But her knowledge about sustainability and being environmentally friendly was fairly limited, as she was just informed of the basic reduce, reuse, and recycle. And it wasn't until she moved away to college in Montreal where she had exposure on how composting is important, and how recycling and waste reduction is also important. And it's only mainly because it was more accessible to her, which is a problem I find now here, even personally. A lot of people try to, tell people you should be more sustainable and how you should do this, you should do that. But for some people, it's not a case of if they want to do it, it's if they can, because of accessibility. Sometimes the resources just aren't accessible to us, to others, or the information as well, as it might be for those who are actually participating in it. So Murray just describes the story of her liking for clothing, and how as she, grew older and became more aware of the detrimental effects of, fast fashion, she stopped completely buying from fast fashion, and she began buying from more ethical and sustainable clothing brands. And she realized that, hey, I could inform people now that I know the bad effects of this. And she had friends DMing her and asking her, hey, how can I be more sustainable, since we are in an age of technology where everyone kind of wants to be in the know of everything, and they want to, inform themselves, and sometimes people don't really know how to inform themselves. So she figured that she could help out others in a way that she didn't get help by creating this blog. And reality is, she mentions that many of us know the negative effects of the clothes that we are wearing, and how the working conditions of these sweatshops are poor and people can be underpaid. And her blog discusses that, and she discusses that as well in this episode of the podcast. And her blog shows how it's achievable, and how being sustainable can be accessible to those who may feel like it isn't, in ways of buying from secondhand shops or from borrowing from others. And I thought it was important how some of the stuff may not be as trendy, and that's not the point. Isn't to be trendy, it's to try to be more conscious of what you're doing and how what you're wearing has had negative effects on the environment and people who have worked in these conditions. And I thought it was interesting how, especially in the age now of influencers, there can be such a toxic culture of people who are trying to promote sustainability as an aesthetic rather than the reason why people are actually doing it. And that kind of creates a toxic culture. And I thought that was important to mention, because it's so true. Everything on social media, people are trying to be flashy and trying to be picture perfect, rather than focusing on what the actual cause is and why people are doing it. And so many people don't know how to be sustainable, or how to make their decisions more environmentally friendly. And that's why it's important to bring it up. And that's what she was talking about, and a big reason as to why she created her blog. And another direct quote from the podcast that I thought was really interesting was how they are no long-lasting relationships with the sweatshops and the companies. And so they have to take whatever price offered by the company, or else the company will walk away and go somewhere else and spend their money. And they do this by going to countries where it may be cheaper to do this, and then they price the clothing either cheaper, or they could price the clothing a bit higher, and it's just poorly made, or it's made in poor conditions, in which many people don't know actually. And the fast fashion industry alone is responsible for 10% of the annual carbon emissions. And ways in which I have tried to be more sustainable fashion wise is by shopping secondhand, not only at thrift stores but online. There are many places online, Poshmark, ThredUp, Depop, in which people resell, and those are ways that I have been trying to participate. The past 2 years myself, I have became aware and conscious of the fast fashion industry and the detrimental effects it has on the universe and on the world and those who work for those sweatshops and companies. So I want to continue to try to be more sustainable and ethical, not only in my fashion but my everyday life. But I'm taking it one step at a time and trying to inform myself, and especially by taking this class, it's helping me be more informed on the effects of our actions that maybe we didn't know before.